Have you ever wondered what's really going on inside your brain? A quantitative EEG, or QEEG, allows us to map the brain's activity and understand its unique patterns, like taking a snapshot of your brainwaves. I'm Dr. David Haase at the Maxwell Clinic, and this is Lincoln Logan, our lead neurofeedback tech, and we'd like to tell you a little bit about this. So Lincoln, would you tell them what a QEEG is?
Absolutely. So a QEEG stands for a quantitative electroencephalogram. So it is a non-invasive way for us to be able to measure the brain's activity and what we call brain waves. It's the electrical activity of the brain.
Cool. So, this is a brain mapping. I got into this. I was very interested because there's a comment made that psychiatry was the only specialty that didn't examine the organ they treated. And that was really insightful. And so I've been doing quantitative EEG brain mapping at Maxwell Clinic for over 16 years. And I've taught courses in medical schools, teaching other doctors about how to use this information. It's really amazing stuff. Really amazing stuff. So how is a QEEG performed?
Well, that's why we have this wonderful little prop over here, which is this beautiful, fashionable, I might say, cap that you're going to put on that looks kind of like a swimmer's cap. However, you have all these little electrodes that are positioned in various locations. And when you put this on the head, what it is each of these are probes that are positioned in specific areas of the scalp. And what we do from there is we actually put a small amount of electrical gel, and that allows us to pick up the electrical activity from the brain and therefore be able to read that activity we spoke of before, which we call brainwave activity.
Yep, and it's totally painless. It's very safe. We're only measuring the electricity your body makes. No electricity is going into the body.
You are not being electrocuted. Let's make that clear.
So what does a brain map show us?
So as stated before, we call it brainwave activity, and all that is are electrical patterns of functioning within the brain. Now, the reason why that's very important is because there are various types of brainwaves that contribute to our everyday function, the things that we do. You may have heard of things before like alpha or theta or beta or delta. Those are different types of brainwaves that we actually assess for. And we not only see those types of brainwaves, but we see what your brain is doing as you do specific types of tasks that would be indicative of what you do in your everyday life. So with those patterns, we're able to see, is there any underlying conditions or things that are connected to the patient's experience that they currently are having?
Yeah. All the brain waves are mixed together, and we use a computer to kind of extract out and define some of the brain waves that are most powerful. Like, for instance, delta brain waves are present in individuals in deep sleep and restoration. Theta brain waves, which are a little bit faster, those are associated with daydreaming or trance, creativity, or deep relaxation. Alpha waves, again, a little bit faster than that, give a calm focus and a meditative state. In alpha, there's a place called peak alpha, which is this unique measurement that we do, which is actually kind of measuring your brain's clock speed. If you think of your brain like a computer chip, your peak alpha actually lets you know how fast is your chip working. Very interesting. And then you have beta, and beta is a little faster yet. This is alertness and focus and problem solving, but too much beta can lead to anxiety and rumination. Gamma is even faster yet, and this has a lot of high-level thinking and processing. So pretty cool because, and these are big terms that we use to give a general understanding, but it's as you can imagine, the brain's a lot more complex than that simple explanation I just gave. So what can the QEEG tell us?
I think the biggest thing that it does, and I tell patients this quite often, is it gives us a true window into their experience that they're having. Many of the patients that I've spoken to, we both have, will often come back after having the assessment, talking with one of our clinicians, and go, oh wow, this explains why I've done this my whole life, or what is actually driving the effects that they experience every day. And so it's a wonderful explanation and understanding to many of the underlying connections of what's actually creating the experience they're having. And I think that brings so much clarity to the patients as they are continuing their health journey.
Yep. Yep. I'm always amazed at, because when people get to see their brain in living color, we can map out and show it. It almost looks like a weather map. And what happens is people go like, wow, I now understand why I'm having this anxiety, why I'm having this difficulty concentrating, why I'm prone to depression, why I may be having migraines or seizures or headaches or, anything that's dealing with the brain will show up on the EEG.
Absolutely.
It's just profound. And the amount of shame and guilt that people can let go of when they recognize, wow, this is a problem with the organ that's in my head. It's not a problem with my soul.
Yes.
I'm not broken. My brain needs some help.
That's right. That's right. You use the word a lot too when we talk about the brain as efficiency, and that everybody can be more efficient. And so it's about what parts of the brain, according to what we're seeing within the data, can offer, that there's some possibilities, some room for improvement here. Nobody's broken, as you said, and I love telling patients that when I'm working with them with doing neurofeedback, but hey, we want to round out some of those sharp edges and continue to make you sharper in other areas as well. So. Yep.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up efficiency. The brain is only about 2.5% of our body weight, but it consumes about 23% of our daily energy. It is a massive consumer of energy because it's making electricity all the time over the whole brain. And you're making electricity. I mean, it's amazing. So a little bit of inefficiency in how your brain works immediately starts to cause a drag. And that's why so many symptoms people experience are brain-related symptoms. The fatigue, sleeplessness, pain, mood changes, concentration change. So much of our experience of our being has to do with our brain's electrical efficiency. Hey, I tell you brought a map along here.
I sure
you want
did.
to show that off a little bit?
Yeah, okay. So this is what we call a summary report. And Doc, I'm going to kind of give you the field.
Do I
here
get to be
kind of break-
Vanna?
Oh, absolutely. So this kind of displays all of the essential points of what we get from the data, and there's a lot of different points to the data we get. I mean, it's extremely comprehensive. So you see these different areas here. Some of these over here to the left have to do with markers relating to processing ability, whether that's speed, the brain's ability to take in information and apply it. Very important information for us to know, hey, is anybody having attentional issues? Are they dealing with a real inability to properly process the information that they have that their brain's taking in? Over here to the right, you can also see these head maps, and this is one of the most interesting parts of the data because based on this, you see the different colorations, and the colorations represent either overactivity, underactivity, or more balance. And so where you see more green, you're seeing more of balanced activity, or it's within a range of activity that would be deemed healthier. As you dip more into blue, it's more underactivity, meaning the type of brainwave that's being displayed, there's a little less than ideal. It's outside of the range. And then where there's red, that would be indicative of too much, right? And so that would be imbalance. So balance versus imbalance. And so, are there any points of this, Doc, that you'd like would like to go into as well?
I think it's what's really fascinating. The brain maps are a lot like a weather map.
Yeah.
Green is kind of average normal, right? Kind of where you want to live. Everything that's moving towards red, it's like, ooh, that's hot. Things that are moving towards blue, well, that's getting colder. And then so this is a very, very simple representation. Some of our brain map reports are over 50 pages in length,
Very extensive.
and the amount of data that we get to look into is really profound. We look at connectivity, we look at phase lag, coherence. There's so many different components of how the brain works that can be measured when we understand its electricity. Such a benefit. And down here, these are called ERPs, event-related potentials. And ERPs will have you actually do a task while we're doing a study sometimes. And we see what the brain does under demand. And that's an incredibly useful thing when we start seeing slowing or low power, those can be really concerning findings with regard to early neurodegeneration. And if we find these signals early, it gives us huge opportunity to intervene and change the trajectory of health. So, we've already talked about some of the conditions. I think anything that's brain related, this is useful for, because it gives you insight about, may I have a metabolic challenge going on, head injury. Oh my gosh, the number of people who are walking around out there, probably yourself, I think it's probably over 80% of individuals who've had a meaningful knock to the noggin. And it has somewhat of an effect on your overall brain function. The process of quantitative EEG brain mapping is one of the best ways of ascertaining whether or not that may be an issue. And neurofeedback can be an incredibly effective way to start improving and reorganizing some of that information that's been scattered. But they're useful for all types of neuropsychiatric conditions and peak performance. This is very important.
Yes, because a lot of patients, I think, sometimes come in with the idea of, wait a second, and this is where that word efficiency comes up again, right? So let's use it for an example, an entrepreneur who comes in and goes, you know what, I don't really have anything wrong, but I'd like to go to the next level. I want my focus to be better. I want to be quicker on my feet. I want to be conversationally more fluent. And we can absolutely tailor the training to accomplish those desired effects as well.
Yep. And I think it's most all of us are caught inside our own brain, right? All of us can only see the world through the perception that our own brain gives us. So many of us don't realize that we are under-functioning according to our potential. And we get so used to our dysfunctions that it often will take a family member, a loved one, or somebody like that saying, hey, do you think you should get that checked out? That's a shame, because we've had some great fun. People who are peak performance patients that are going like, man, they're dedicated to putting the time, money, energy, and effort into being the best versions of themselves, and to get to see that continue to uncover and new layers of performance emerge in those people is some of my greatest joys, because they're not pursuing just like, oh, I'm just sick. No, I want to be the best version of myself. And I think quantitative EEG is one of the great ways of getting objective data. This is not a guessing game. This is science. It gives us a clear marker. What direction are we headed with regard to any therapy? It's great for repeat evaluations. But it's a very useful thing. So.
It's something that we tailor to the individual's needs. And that's where this data is so extraordinary, is that this isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. We're not trying to put a square peg in a round hole. We're not trying to take your brain and make you someone else other than your unique, amazing self that you are. It's about improving those aspects of uniquely who you are, and as a consequence of that, making this training uniquely suited to you. So that's the beauty of neurotherapy as well.
That's great. So if you've ever wanted to understand how your brain works or why you might feel the way you do, a QEEG is an incredible tool to get answers. So if you're curious to learn more about quantitative EEG and how it can provide insights for you, reach out to Maxwell Clinic to learn more about our neurofeedback program. We would really love to be of service to you. And we know that if we're of service to you and you become a bigger, better version of yourself, you're going to be of better service to the rest of the world. And we are all part of the solution.